As you see from the video, hundreds of Harvard students decided to walk out in the middle of graduation today in protest of the school board's decision to withhold diplomas from 13 students who participated in the pro-peace, pro-Palestinian protests on campus. Now, they were part of the encampment. They were also part of the encampment that agreed to dismantle the encampment as long as they weren't going to be met with harsh punishment from Harvard. But it appears that Harvard didn't keep up their side of the bargain, and they're not really explaining why. So let me give you the details as we know them at the moment. So just days after the faculty members voted in favor of giving the students their diplomas, the school board jumps in and they decide to reject the decision, which ends up angering both the students and the staff at Harvard. On Monday, 115 faculty members showed up to a meeting in which a decisive majority voted to confer degrees on the 13 seniors. The students were notified of disciplinary charges from the Harvard College Administrative Board just 3 days earlier. Now, even though the protesters dismantled their encampment voluntarily last week with the understanding, I want to repeat again, with the understanding that the university would be lenient in punishing them, withholding diplomas, not lenient. Now, during the meeting, faculty members claimed that it had the authority to add the students back onto the list of degrees for conferral because the disciplinary actions from the administrative board were subject to approval by the Faculty of Arts and Sciences, the ultimate disciplinary body for the college, according to the university's governing statutes. But the Harvard Corporation disagreed with this, and 2 days after the meeting, they decided to overrule them. The Harvard Corporation, in a statement explaining its decision, cited the Harvard College Handbook, which says that a degree will not be granted to a student who is not in good standing or against whom a disciplinary charge is pending with the administrative board, the honor council, or the disciplinary board of another school. Now, it's important to know that there's still a lot of information missing in this story, namely because the board is not really giving us much of an explanation as to why they've made this decision in regard to the 13 students. The students in question are either on probation, like we don't know if they're either on probation or suspended. Harvard hasn't provided a breakdown of the disciplinary actions or what the students had allegedly done, saying it can't comment on individual cases. And we don't know if the students were punished for any legitimate reasons or just participating in the encampment itself. And so, look, all we can do, since they're not giving us any real explanation or any real reasons for why they're withholding diplomas from these 13 students, is speculate as to why they're doing it. And that's what I want to do right now, because just a day earlier, guys, there was a story about how Harvard is now facing a federal lawsuit. That federal lawsuit has been filed by the Louis Brandeis Center for Human Rights and the Jewish Americans for Fairness in Education. The federal suit alleges that Harvard University did not do enough to protect Jewish students from what they claim is rampant anti-Semitism. So there is a possibility that the school has decided to withhold diplomas or deny diplomas to these 13 pro-Palestinian students to send a message and make it appear as though they did everything they could to protect Jewish students, even though we don't have any explanation as to what these students did that would lead to such an extreme decision against them. Cenk, what do you think?
Pausing here to deliver some honest truth as we do in our news coverage as well. TYT is facing challenges, guys, as the entire industry is. You know who could make the difference? You. If you hit the join button below, it's gonna make all the difference and keep us in business. We appreciate you, thank you.
I think Alan Garber is racist. I think that.
Wait, explain who Alan Garber is for the audience.
Yeah, he's the interim president of Harvard. And I think that probably almost everybody on the administrative board at Harvard are racists. They think that Palestinian lives are not as valuable as Israeli lives. They're proving it indisputably. There has been at least as many anti-Muslim comments on those campuses as anti-Semitic comments. If there were any anti-Semitic comments, people love to throw around accusations. They hardly ever present any evidence. In this case, Harvard has presented zero evidence against these students. And faculty's reaction is really important. So the faculty has seen the evidence, and they're absolutely outraged that they didn't let these kids walk in their graduation and still haven't given them their diplomas, including faculty that are on Israel's side and didn't like the protest. Even they were outraged by the decision.
Yes.
So that gives you an excellent indication of who's telling the truth and who's lying, and who's the racist and the bigot and who isn't. So all these charges of anti-Semitism against 99% peaceful, wonderful students who are trying to protect Palestinian lives when almost none of them are Palestinian are intolerable. Every time they make that charge, I'm going to make a much, much more accurate charge, which the people making those kind of accusations, especially without evidence, and shutting down protests against Israel. And let's be honest, if you don't realize that this has nothing to do with anti-Semitism, that all it is an effort to shut down all criticism and all protests of the government of Israel, you're nuts. You can't see straight. You can't see straight at all. And so these guys, I'm gonna make the charge because it's true. They are definitely racist against Palestinians because they say 34 Israeli children were killed. It's an outrage. I agree with their outrage 100%. Now what, 15,000 Palestinian children have been killed? Or 11, we're starting to lose track of the tens of thousands of innocent Palestinian children murdered. And they say, who cares? Who cares? How dare you protest? If you protest tens of thousands of Palestinian children who are innocent, who are murdered, then I'm gonna call you all sorts of names. I'm gonna deny you graduation. I'm gonna deny you a diploma. Only a racist would do that.
So just to buttress what you were saying, Cenk, about how there are members of the faculty who are outraged by this, and we're talking about members of the faculty who actually were not in favor of the encampments. You have Stephen Marglin, who is a professor of economics who has taught at Harvard for 59 years. He called the corporation's decision a slap in the face to faculty and likely to prompt protests at graduation Thursday, which we just saw footage of. So his prediction came true, but keep in mind, he does not support the pro-Palestinian protests. Still, he thinks the discipline went too far in preventing students from receiving degrees. The encampment, which included 30 to 40 tents, he says was well within the bounds of what Harvard had tolerated in the past. And look, Cenk, to your point, look, I don't know if they're making these decisions based on racist ideas or racist beliefs. What I do know is that they care about money and they care about not losing lawsuits. And so when you have alumni that is not really favorable toward the protesters, claiming that they're gonna stop donating money to Harvard, yeah, that's gonna get the power players within the institution to make decisions that might not be so fair toward the students who are part of the pro-peace, pro-Palestinian protesters. The same with the lawsuits. Oftentimes, people get scared with the lawsuits and they'll in their minds, overcorrect, or they think they're doing the correct thing, but they're really overcorrecting, which could lead to a decision that I feel isn't just. And in this case, I don't know. I personally don't know what these students did because the Harvard Corporation is not making it clear. They're not sharing the details, but I trust the faculty members who know about these allegations, who are privy to the details, and who are totally against withholding the diplomas from these students.
Okay, here's how you can tell I'm 100% right. Does anyone in the audience genuinely believe that there has been more anti-Semitic comments on college campuses or anti-Muslim comments? Come on. Do you really believe that? Oh, I bet there's been no anti-Muslim comments. You know what? Whether it's the pro-Israel side or randos in Mississippi or anywhere else, all of these college campuses, I alone probably have received more anti-Muslim comments than all the anti-Semitic comments aimed at students in the entire country combined. Okay, so, but I bring that up to you guys. Why? Have you seen congressional hearings about the anti-Muslim comments, anti-Palestinian comments?
Nope.
Have you seen any presidents of colleges being fired for not doing enough about the anti-Muslim comments? Have you seen any action at all or any concern, 1% concern about anti-Muslim comments on college campuses? Even though almost everyone would acknowledge, yeah, there's a lot more anti-Muslim comments than anti-Semitic comments. No, because they don't care about Muslims, because they're bigots. They don't care about Palestinians because they're racist.
I mean,
and they think Palestinian lives, who would possibly care? They're just disposable Palestinians. That's what Alan Garber thinks. That's what the administrative board at Harvard thinks. That's what all of these presidents and the politicians and the media figures that have been smearing these poor kids and now denying them diplomas. That's what they all think, that Palestinian lives are worthless. That's why they are deeply racist.
Ryan Enos, a professor of government, said this about the Harvard Corporation's decision. I'm upset. This was pure hubris by the corporation. To think a bunch of billionaires that visit Cambridge a couple of times a year could tell the professors who educate these students that they know better than them who deserves to earn degrees. The audacity is breathtaking. In my opinion, the corporation is not worthy of leading the university. And another professor warned that because of the school's decision, he expects a faculty rebellion. And during today's commencement ceremony, Harvard University student speaker Shruti Kumar went off script and put the institution on blast. So let's take a look at that.
As I stand before you today, I must take a moment to recognize my peers, the 13 undergraduates in the class of 2024 who will not graduate today. I am deeply disappointed by the intolerance for freedom of speech and the right to civil disobedience on campus. Over 1,500 students had petitioned. Nearly 500 staff and faculty had spoken up, all overwhelmingly against the unprecedented sanctions. The students had spoken. The faculty had spoken. Harvard, do you hear us?
I mean, we're talking about the elite institutions in this country. These aren't just, look, let's just keep it real. People who go to these Ivies end up being the elites in this country. The power players, the ones who make decisions about policy, the individuals who end up serving in Congress. This is a huge mistake for anyone who wants this country to continue its unwavering commitment to Israel, because these kids are gonna grow up and they're not gonna forget what happened to them. And if you're wondering what happens now, well, the 13 students who have been denied their degrees or their diplomas can appeal the decision and request that they be returned to good standing. The corporation said that if they were, the university would confer their degrees at that time. Any final words, Cenk?
Yes, I'm super proud of Kumar for that great speech and for supporting our fellow students. I think that you should never trust anyone in media that fear-mongered about these students and that did McCarthyite kind of coverage of them. Dana Bash on the media side, but tons of them, almost everybody on the media side. Joe Scarborough, Mika Brzezinski, I could go on forever. Almost all of the politicians in those McCarthyite hearings. So has a single pro-Israel protest been shut down in America? Not one. The worst incident of violence in any of these student protests was at UCLA, where pro-Israel extremists assaulted, pepper sprayed, and beat the students with sticks. None of them have been arrested because Muslim lives are irrelevant to the people in power in America. Palestinian lives are irrelevant because the people in America, in power in America, only care about lobbyist money, and they don't care about the average American. They don't care about American principles at all. They're deeply racist against Palestinians. They're deeply bigoted against Muslims. Not a single pro-Israel protest has been shut down, no matter what they do, including tremendous violence. But every single anti-Israel protest has been shut down. Gee, I wonder if that's a coincidence. You guys are being ridiculous, and what you're doing is you're educating the youth of America that if you're not in favor of a foreign government like Israel, our government will come to crush you. Thank you for letting them know how corrupt the American government is. That's an education they won't forget their whole life.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.